Well, fears remain today that another day of peaceful protests in Ferguson, Missouri will turn into violence again tonight. This even after the National Guard has been called in to calm tensions. Also, Missouri Governor Jay Nixon lifted a curfew requiring protesters to clear the streets after midnight, but that didn't help either. 31 protesters were arrested. Police confiscated guns and Molotov cocktails. Now, according to the Los Angeles Times, some of the protesters traveled all the way to Ferguson from New York and California. Highway Patrol Captain Ron Johnson condemned those protesters for showing up from out of town with the specific purpose of causing trouble.
And I am not going to let the criminals that have come out here from across this country or live in this community define this neighborhood and define what we're going to do to make it right.
President Obama's pleas for calm didn't help either. He met with Attorney General Eric Holder in Washington yesterday to discuss the situation in Ferguson. The president also announced that Holder will be traveling to Ferguson tomorrow to meet with the FBI and other DOJ representatives. The Federal Justice Department has launched an independent investigation into the death of Michael Brown, the 18-year-old who was shot and killed by the police officer. Also yesterday, President Obama addressing the current situation in Iraq after meeting with members of his National Security Council. The president says American military personnel are seeing progress in Iraq after U.S.-led airstrikes helped Kurdish and Iraqi fighters regain control of the nation's largest dam in Mosul.
We will continue to pursue a long-term strategy to turn the tide against ISIL by supporting the new Iraqi government and working with key partners in the region and beyond. There should be no doubt that the United States military will continue to carry out the limited missions that I've authorized, protecting our personnel and facilities in Iraq, in both Erbil and Baghdad.
President highlighting the word limited there. He also added that U.S. operations are protecting U.S. interests in Iraq and says significant progress, again, is being made in the region. Also new today, members of the Pope's family have just died in a car crash in Argentina. The Pope's nephew is currently in critical condition after crashing his vehicle into a truck. The nephew's wife and 2 young children died at the scene. Meanwhile, on his way home from Korea yesterday, Pope Francis said he'd like to come to the United States next year as part of a 3-city tour, including stops in Philly, New York, and D.C. The pontiff plans to speak to both Congress and the UN. Pope Francis also suggested that he may not have much time left as a leader of the Catholic Church, and he said he would not rule out retirement. Also, new reports out of Israel today tell us that the fighting has resumed in the Mideast after Egypt was unable to broker a longer-term ceasefire between Palestinian militants and Israel. The Israeli military says it carried out airstrikes in Gaza, responding to these new rocket fire attacks this morning. This after Palestinian militants in Gaza fired 3 rockets into Israel today.